So the night before my 16th birthday, I had something come into my bedroom. So I'm going to preface this by saying the night before my 4th birthday, my mom's mom passed away. So it's the middle of the night. I didn't have a clock in my room, so I'm going to guess by how long it took for the sun to come up that it was probably around 4 o'clock in the morning. And at this point in my life, I had 2 cats and they slept in bed with me with the door closed. And I woke up because they were both absolutely freaking out. And at the foot of my bed is a woman. She is turned away from me. She's got long, like, black hair, white nightgown. First, I think it's my mom, and then I realize this woman is, like, wet, like soaking wet. And she gets up, and when she stands up, it freaks one of my cats out, and she scratched me, just how I know I wasn't asleep during this, because the next day, still had a scratch. And she kind of turns and starts to walk towards, you know, the side of the bed that I'm on, kind of turn the corner and come up towards like the head of my bed. And when I see her face, I freeze. I can't move, can't blink, like just staring like straight ahead. Won't really like look at her after I saw her face. And her skin is like a bluish gray color. Her eyes are completely black. And she has all of her teeth are all pointed to like sharp points, and she is like smiling this like crazy big smile towards me as she's looking at me and moving up towards my face. She gets next to my head and she kneels down and is just staring at me. And I don't move for hours, it felt like. And then the sun finally starts to come up, and when it does, she stands up and turns around towards the wall, and there's a door there that goes into the attic, and she just like walked straight through the door. And as soon as she's gone, I am like up out of my bed, door open, bolting down the steps to go to my mother. And I am like visibly upset as I tell her, you know, what happened. And she starts to get upset and tells me that she thinks it's her fault because the night before, the night of my grandmother's like death anniversary, she had like kind of prayed, reached out to the universe and asked for a sign that there was like a life after death, that my grandma was okay, asked for my grandma to like speak to her, and she felt like, you know, she opened a door for this thing to come into our house. Unfortunately, this is not the only time that something has happened to our family. My son, when we lived in my mom's house later when he was 2, and this is a different house, had multiple experiences with something in the home. My mom's house has its own thing going on. There's like multiple stories I could tell you of things happening in that house. My great-grandma's house had multiple things going on where multiple family members witnessed or experienced something. Even when my mom's dad passed away a few years ago, there is a recording that you can hear on the recording, like ghosts or spirits or something like talking to my grandpa as he dies, including my mom's mom. So if you want any story times about any of those, let me know in the comments.
Okay, when I was younger, probably like 13, 14, 15 years old, somewhere around that time, I would always fall asleep on the couch at night watching TV. I didn't have a TV in my bedroom, so I would fall asleep on the couch at night watching TV, and my mom would always like yell at me the next day about sleeping on the couch, like, when you're sleepy, go to bed. Well, one night I was babysitting my little cousin. He was about like 1 or 2, and we both fell asleep on the couch watching TV, right? So he's sleeping behind me on the couch so that he doesn't fall off and hurt himself. And you know, I fall asleep, and at some point in the night I wake up, and when I wake up, my little cousin is no longer like behind me. He is now kind of like laying over my body, kind of hanging off the couch, right? And so I'm like, whoa, what's this kid doing, right? So I pick him up, I put him back. I fall asleep again. Later on, I wake up again, right? And I don't know what's waking me up, right? I just know I'm waking up, right? Kind of, I don't know. I like almost like intuitively, I'm waking up. And this time when I wake up, this kid is now down the couch, head facing the opposite direction of me, down by my knees, right? Now he's down by my knees. And I'm like, what is going on with this kid? Like, he never sleeps crazy like this. I've never had this happen with him. So I just get up, I get him, I put him back. You know, he's not awake, he's knocked out, he's, you know, hard asleep. And then I go back to sleep. So then a little bit later, I wake up for a third time. This time, my little cousin is all the way down the couch, body hanging over the arm of the couch on the opposite end. Like, just hanging over it, right? And at this point, I'm like freaked out because I'm like, there's no way this kid is getting up and moving himself in these weird positions. And it's freaking me out. And I'm more like, I feel like someone is trying to steal my baby cousin. And so I wake up, my little crazy teenage self, I wake up, I get him, I put him back, I sit up, and I just kind of stay awake. I'm like convinced that something's trying to steal my baby. I don't know what, but I'm gonna stay awake because it's not happening on my watch, right? So I stay up all night. The next day I tell my mom, and she's all like, Ebony, you're not supposed to be sleeping on the couch anyway, right? That's kind of how she takes it, right? So whatever. Fast motherfucking forward. I fall asleep on the couch by myself one day. And for some reason, in the middle of the night, I wake up. And when I wake up and I look over, there is this little short, gremlin looking monster person, like really, really short, tall enough that my face laying down on the couch and his face are level, just standing in front of me, just staring at me. I mean, just staring, not saying anything, not moving, but just like staring me down. I freak out. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. I freak out. I grab the cover. I turn my back to it. I cover my head, and I just start to pray. I just start praying all the prayers my grandma ever taught me. Just praying. And I guess I must have prayed and laid there like, if I don't move and it can't see my face, it can't hurt me type deal until I fell asleep. And then the next day I woke up and I told my mom, and she was like, Ebony, you probably just had a really bad dream. That probably was a nightmare. It probably just felt like it was real. And I was like, no, it was real. And I'm convinced that whatever the hell that was tried to steal my baby cousin. And I don't care who believes me. I don't care if my mom believed me. I don't care if she thinks I had a nightmare. I never fell asleep on that couch again. And I know something was trying to steal my baby cousin that night. That's all I gotta say.
Here's a story that no one asked me to tell. So I'm born and bred here in New Orleans, and I've always had my businesses in New Orleans. Mainly, the main parts of the different businesses that I've had focus on events and weddings. So probably around 2003, my son Joey was in high school, and we were doing like over 300 weddings a year, designing flowers and events. So we had to split up into teams to make these deliveries with bouquets. So downtown, as everybody knows, they have different hotels. They're like, oh, that hotel's haunted, or this hotel's haunted. Honestly, I was too tired and too busy to even worry about it. But I do have a little bit of clairvoyance. My son Joey, he doesn't, okay? He doesn't believe in anything. So, like his dad. So we were the team that day to go to this hotel. We walk in, we get on the elevator, girls on the 14th floor. No problem. We press 14, we go up, we're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. We're no wait. So we get up to the 14th floor, ding, 14. We get off the elevator and we're walking down the hallway. And it says 1325, 1327, 1329. And I see these steps like ahead, way down the hallway. I'm like, gosh, maybe we go up the steps and that leads to the 14th floor. We don't know what's going on. So we see a lady folding towels. This little lady, short black hair, a little uniform on. She looked like she was about to go and clean one of the rooms. We're on our way back from going down that hall, and still all 1300s. We go up to her and start talking to her and say, hey, what's going on? Like, where do we go? Which way leads to the 14th floor? And this lady, it was like she was seeing through us. She was not paying attention to us. She didn't look at us. It was like she was a ghost. So he and I look at each other, and he's like, I'm getting off. I'm leaving. Okay. I don't know what's going on, but I'm getting back on that elevator. We go back on the elevator. We press 14 again. Okay. The door closes. We press 14. The door opens back up. We walk out, and here's the room numbers: 1425, 1427, and he and I are like shaking. So we go deliver the flowers to the bride. We don't say a word. We don't say a word, because right now we're thinking, okay, we don't know what just happened. So we deliver the flowers. We get back on the elevator, and there's this man standing in the corner, and he looks like he has like an older uniform on, maybe from the early 1900s. And we're like, oh, there must be something going on. You know, I mean, this is the French Quarter. So, I mean, all kind of like festivals and all kind of stuff going. So we look at him and we're like, hey, what's up with the floors here? We were just on the 13th floor. This man looks straight ahead and he says, this hotel doesn't have a 13th floor. And Joey and I look at each other. We get to the bottom floor. We walk off that elevator. I look back, and that man wasn't there. And from that time on, my son Joey will not go in that hotel. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even like it when I tell the story. He won't even tell the story because he doesn't want to believe that that happened, but he knows it did. So that's my story for today.
In high school when I was younger, something pretending to be my mom came into my room late at night, and it wasn't her. So my family actually lived in a haunted house. It was crazy because we built the house and there was nothing on the land before. But literally on the very first day that we moved in, my mom and dad and I brought boxes to the house and left my sister there while we went back to our old house to pick up more boxes. And by the time we came back with the new boxes, my sister was trying to take the screen off of our window and climb out of the house because she said she heard men in the kitchen talking, so she had locked her bedroom door. And yeah, she was the only one in the house at the time. So let's fast forward a little bit. It's October of 2013. Stuff had been happening in the house. My sister and I kept telling my parents that there's things that are going on, but they weren't really believing us. It was kind of like a horror movie. So it's October 2013. I'm sitting in my bedroom. Here's my room. My sister's room is right here. A long hallway right here, then an open floor plan with a kitchen, living room, and then my parents' bedroom on the other side of the kitchen. So I heard somebody moving around dishes and stuff in the actual kitchen area. So I thought it was my mom. I said, hey, Mom, are you out there? And I heard my mom say, yeah, like exactly like that. And I'm like, could you bring me a glass of water? Because I was already in bed. I don't know why I asked that, but I heard my mom respond back and say, yeah, I'm coming, like something like that. So I'm thinking I'm getting some water. My mom's gonna come, bring it to me. And I heard that. It's so crazy. I hear her walking down the hallway all the way up to my bedroom door. And right when the footsteps get to my bedroom door, silence. Keep in mind it's pitch black. I'm just in my bed. And I hear my mom, or what I think is my mom, get down on the floor on all fours. I had carpet in my bedroom. And it was like she scurried around my bed, like going around my bed. And I literally was like, Mom, what the hell are you doing? And I got up and I took my phone out and turned my flashlight on. The moment I turned the flashlight on, noises stopped completely. And I'm like, oh my God, I get chills. There's nobody in here. There was literally nobody in the room. And shortly after that, my sister came out of her bedroom and was like asking what the hell happened. Like, she had heard my mom's voice as well, and she heard me like screaming. And that's when we both went and got my parents. And yeah. The story of that is actually insane. We ended up having psychics come to try and cleanse the house. It didn't work. There was a time when my dad thought someone broke into the house, so he got a weapon and was walking around the house trying to make sure no one was in there. No one was in there. Tons of different stuff. We also discovered there might be pioneer settlers buried under the grounds of the house. I went down to the courthouse in South Dakota to look all of it up. And yeah, I could go on for days and days with ghost stories, but that was definitely the creepiest. Hearing my mom's voice and it walking up to my door and then crawling around on all fours. That's some shit that I don't know if people really believe still. I don't know if you're believing this, but that 100% happened to me, and that was one of the reasons why I got into the career of wanting to paranormal investigate. Because once you have an experience like that, you're kind of in the world and you can't get out of it. At least I couldn't.
I'm not even religious like I was when this happened, but this is the reason that I still believe that there's life after death. Whenever the topic of ghosts comes up, I tell this story when people don't believe and they think I'm crazy. I was 15 years old and a family friend set me up with another family so that I could babysit for them. They lived in this really pretty home, but it obviously wasn't new construction or anything, it had some years on it. The two boys that I was babysitting, they were absolutely nuts. Like, they tried tying me with my own sweater. Anyways, that's important to the story. I was making these two boys mac and cheese, just me and these two boys, and I set them up at the table with their mac and cheese. And I remember thinking, I have to turn the stove off because these boys are wild. I don't want them near a hot stove. So I turn it off. I remember intentionally thinking that. So I walk back over to the table and I'm sitting down with the boys while they're eating their mac and cheese, and I hear that click because it's a gas stove, and I look over and the stove is on. There's fire. I look over completely confused, and I know the boys are sitting there, but still I ask, hey, did either of you boys turn on that stove? And immediately they got super defensive. They're like, no, we've been sitting here eating mac and cheese. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. It was weird, but I thought, oh, it's a little bit of an older home, maybe it has some quirks. So then they finished dinner and we're sitting over in the living room, and the sink, it doesn't turn on, but water starts pouring out of the kitchen sink. Again, I kind of brushed that off because I'm like, oh, it's an older home, maybe the pipes are weird, maybe water just comes out. I just try not to freak myself out because I'm someone that gets very paranoid with that stuff. So I put these boys to bed. They were wild boys, but they thankfully went to bed for me really easily. And I'm sitting down on the living room couch. They told me I could use any streaming service I want. So I turn on a show. It's like 20 minutes after bedtime. And their basement door that's right next to the living room opens. And I remember they told me like, oh, our little kitten is down in the basement. So I thought, okay, it's a kitten, but cats are crazy, so maybe the cat somehow opened the door. So I walk over to the basement door and I close it. I go back to the couch. I'm a little bit freaked out, but I just try to ignore it. About 20 minutes later, it's like 40 minutes after I've put these boys down, I hear footsteps running up and down the hallway upstairs. I don't even think that it's anything paranormal because these boys are wild. I'm like, oh, I knew it was too easy. You put them in bed. I walk upstairs and the boys are fast asleep. There's no pretending. I can tell when kids are faking it, okay? There is no pretending. Their eyes are shut, snoring. They're asleep. It was so real that the thought of it being all of the other freaky events didn't even cross my mind. This point, I am shaking. I go back downstairs, turn New Girl back on. I'm just trying to ignore it. And suddenly, I look up and a shadow is walking across the kitchen. Look outside, there's no one there. I just immediately start sobbing. I'm sobbing. I call my dad and I'm like, Dad, this is happening. I sound crazy. My dad doesn't really believe in ghosts. And he just says, honey, say a prayer, say a prayer. I'm not religious anymore, but I said a prayer and suddenly like relief just washed over me and nothing freaky happened. Parents came home. I went home. I never went back to that house.